Welcome back. All right. Now, if we run this right now, you'll notice that the boxes kind of move off screen. So let's hop into our game view controller.swift. And what we need to do is we need to set scene.size is equal to skview.bounds.width, or bounds.size actually. All right, so let me explain what this is. In this game view controller, this is where we set up our first scene. And you can see that, if you ever need to figure out what code does, read it line by line and think really hard what it's going to do. It's long past the days that you need to figure out what it is in binary or some kind of weird machine language. If you read this line, you can say if let's scene game scene file name game scene. You can probably bet that that is the code that will set it up here. So we have our scene here and we also have our view. Okay, what this is that we set up a scene and we set up the view. This line is going to set up the scene to make sure that the bounds are the size of it. So let's go ahead and let's run it and let's take a look at and to see what happens here. So as you can see, there we go. I can click this as much as I want, and the score and everything's working, and we got all the colors and whatnot here. You can see that there's maybe a bit too many white, but as you can see, it does work, and you can see the start, you can see the score here. One thing that's kind of interesting to note is that it kind of just fits everything in here. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's go back to our game scene.swift, and what we need to do is we have our blocks, we have our labels, and we need to go and set in a countdown timer. So let's go down to the bottom here, and let's say function. We'll call this countdown timer, and we'll add in our timer. So let's say let wait is equal to skaction.wait for duration, and we'll make it 1.0. Now this is how fast the timer is going to be. So let's say countdown is equal to skaction.runBlock, and that's going to allow us to run a block of code. Okay, so first of all, we're going to go to countdown timer var, and remember this is the variable that we set up to make sure that we have it's our timer variable here. Okay, so we'll say minus minus, and that will subtract it. And we're going to say if countdown timer var is less than or equal to 0. Okay, if it's less than or equal to 0, we're going to say countdown timer var is equal to top countdown timer var. Okay, and then we need to add in some logic that says if we're spawning or collecting. So we're going to say if is spawning is double equal to true. So if is spawning equal to true, and is collecting is double equal to false. Okay, what are we going to do? We're going to set is spawning to false and is collecting to true. So again, what this is going to do is that if you're in the spawning stage, we have to go back to the collecting stage. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's add in an if here. We'll say is spawning is double equal to false, and is collecting is double equal to true. Okay, now if you are, if you've been coding for a while, you'll know that if we set is spawning to true, then what it's going to do is it's going to read this line, and then it's automatically going to read this next line, because is spawning is equal to false and is collecting equal to true. So it just automatically reads that if statement. That's why we need to add in a logic var here. And if you're wondering what that did, this is the time to do that. We're going to say is equal to true. Okay, and then we're going to say is spawning is equal to false, and we're going to set is collecting is equal to false, and we're going to set can complete equal to true. So we're now done the game here. Okay, now within this, you want to make sure that there's always double equals here, and let's go ahead, let's add in another function here. We'll say wait, then we can say restart game. Okay, and what we'll do at the end of all this can complete is equal to true, we're going to say self.wait, then restart game. So we're going to call that here. Outside of this if statement, we're going to set logic var to true. This way we know that we can go and we can set it here. Now, since we're not looping it again and again, we can do this. If you want to loop it again, you do have to change it up just a bit. Okay. Now, outside of this here, out of this if statement, we'll say if can complete is equal to false. Okay. So if can complete is equal to false, then we're going to say lbl main dot text is equal to, and then we're going to say the countdown timer var. So we're going to set the main label to the countdown timer if can complete is equal to false. If can complete is equal to true, then we're going to set it to something else like game over or try again. Now, this is where things get a little bit tricky. You want to make sure that you are outside of this run block here, because oftentimes I add in what I'm about to add in inside the run block and it gives me a weird error. So what this is going to do is we're going to say let sequence is equal to skaction.sequence, and within that sequence we're going to say wait, then we're going to say countdown. Okay, we want our actions in there, and then we're going to go to self.runAction, and we're going to make it skaction, and we're going to say .repeat forever, and we're going to repeat the sequence forever. Okay, and there we go. So let's go ahead and let's save it if you haven't already done so. And then what we need to do is we need to say countdown timer. We need to call that. All right, this concludes the tutorial.